Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us in the podcast. So, I'll start with the first question. You've spent 3 decades at the intersection of government, industry, and policy. What was the defining moment that made you realize the need for a platform like Policy Advisors Club?
See, I think there was not a particularly a defining moment. It did take me a bit to kind of zero down on this concept of starting a policy advisory club. But there was one thought which was constantly going on in my head while I was in job, that somewhere we do a very good work of facilitating and growing organizations via that growing countries, but somewhere nobody's talking about or nobody knows about the kind of effect that we bring into the entire working regime of these companies, or the influence that we create in making these organizations do better work. So that thought kind of led me to just getting together with all these minds who are doing some good work. So over the years, we grew like a strong fraternity. We would meet each other, talk to each other. We had common interests to speak on. So I said, okay, why not to create a forum where people can come in individually in their individual capacity to talk about things, where you're not attached to organizations, where you're free to speak your mind on various subjects, not on that particular area or particular sector which you belong to or you're working in. And one fine day, I just, I would say, took a courage to start something like PAC. And I did not know, honestly. I thought it will take a little bit of a time for people to come, join me, understand me, what I'm trying to do. But I'm so excited to share that there was a very strong set of people who came forward and said, no, this is a great concept, and people will take a bit of a time to realize that how influential and how strong it can become going forward. But it's the right time to start the move. So it's institutionalizing what you are already doing in various spaces, getting them all together. If you look at the space right now, it's of course loaded with a lot of industry associations, industry bodies, organizations, but they're all talking about industries. They're not talking about individuals behind the scene, individuals who are making that change, who are strategizing moves, right? They're not talking of them. And that's how I felt that PAC like platform is very critical to start.
Absolutely, ma'am. In fact, I believe the entire idea itself is so fascinating and one of a kind here in India. But I really want to move ahead with your journey as well, discussing more on that.
Hmm.
One thing I found extremely fascinating and interesting, and something which is what SheCivic India is also
Hmm.
aiming to do. You were the first woman and the first government affairs professional to be offered a director position on the Flex India board. What did breaking that barrier mean to you, and how did it shape your perspective on leadership and representation?
So I think a very interesting question, honestly. When I kind of started talking in my organization about it, at that point in time, I did not know I am probably the first woman and first government affairs director to be incorporated into Flexport. I I I got in there and I thought I should be there is because honestly speaking, the government affairs guys get involved into everything that happens in an organization. And if I may put it very precisely, every bottleneck or a problem that gets cropped up in an organization, we become an automatic part of that. And it would be fair to say that no organization runs without hiccups, right? There are hiccups everywhere that you look around. So we do get involved into all aspects of it. And what is a board of an organization at the end of the day? It is discussing some of those aspects which are slowing down the growth of the company. And how do you mitigate each one of them, and then, try to build a better, robust mechanism of making it economically a better place to work. And I think more than anything else, it's about creating a value for yourself and then letting the management know or the higher ups know that you can bring in this worth if you're given an X opportunity. And I think I did that. I didn't shy away from that. I felt that I can make that huge difference of moving the way board is working. At that point of time, I thought that the way board is working, I can really bring in a lot of value to it. And once we got into it, a huge amount of important aspects were getting deliberated there, which I did not have a visibility prior to getting on board. Something like you talk about corporate social responsibility that needed a board's approval, but what are the deliberations that are happening layer wise? And when you are a part of them from the initiation of a discussion, the product that it creates is something very different. So I feel that it should be automatic. I don't see any reason why a government affairs lead in an organization has to show its worth to be a part of that team. Because at the end of the day, we are somebody who are like a magic wand to an organization, that acha ye problem ho gaya, please reach out to so and so. So why not be a part of the board which is initiating resolution to those problems, which is deliberating to begin with, should we do X, or should we incorporate a specific change to make it big for the company? Involve them from day one. That's what it is all about. Or when you're churning numbers and you're seeing that where we are going wrong, what can make us build better revenues, what should be our target, which way should we go. It's great to involve government affairs folks because they have a 360-degree view of where that particular nation is moving from a policy standpoint and where that organization is moving. So you see, though we are the employees of an organization, but we are in a very typical scenario because the inside of organization is our client and the outside, which is the government, is our client too. So we are a kind of a mediator between the two. So if we are involved from the scratch and from the root into the areas, our working will become very effective. I feel that no questions asked and somebody who's leading government affairs should be automatically incorporated. There should be one seat reserved for that particular individual.
Correct, ma'am. Truly motivating to hear that and
But
extremely
sorry, let me add.
inspiration.
And a woman getting added to a board full of men, I would say it's not just about a woman, that you have to add a woman because you need to bring in that diversity aspect of it. I'm sorry if I'm upsetting some women out here, but I think you have to work more on the capability of it. Then you being a woman is obviously there is so much of talk around the whole gender equality and bringing it women into the main spaces that gets addressed automatically. But I think to begin with, one has to make themselves capable enough to be there. It can't be just a woman factor.
Yes, ma'am. I agree that
Yeah,
competency and your own skill set play a crucial role
it
in,
does. Yes,
right?
yes.
So, again, that brings me to the next question, which is along the similar lines only. Having worked across complex regulatory ecosystems in India and globally, what core skills and mindsets should young professionals like us build if they want to succeed in policy advisory roles?
Okay. See, to begin with, I remember that in one of the meetings and one of the informal get-togethers of the policy professionals, somebody said that doing a government affairs role, a public policy role, does not need any rocket science. Let's please understand that we really work on some very complex policies, and at the same time we work on some very easy go lucky kind of work as well. It's a proper mix of both the ends. Imagine that when GST got rolled out, the organizations fell flat. They had no idea what to do about it. And I remember I was a part of HP at that point in time, and our product lines were all going haywire. They had a specific tax on them, and then each product line felt into some higher range of GST, and we were like, oh my God, it's kind of making a huge amount of difference, right? And how the government affairs or the public policy team came together, figured out a solution to it, how we brought in a strategy of how do we talk to government and align the GST implication across product lines, how do you categorize them, It involved a lot of thinking, deliberation, huddle to bring in a piece of paper which could convince the government to kind of align those GST rates. And similarly, many more problems attached to it with respect to your services organization, your products organization, organizations which were dealing with both sides, the tech organizations, and everywhere the government affairs professional had to think differently to bring about that change, right? So, to the youngsters, what I want to say is that no, I would not agree with it that it's a cakewalk. It first of all requires your inclination, your really strong inclination about reading, and reading not great novels, which are like suspense novels or thrillers or romance. You may have to read something really monotonous and boring time and again, and you should be ready to do that. Second, very important thing, one has to be patient to a next level, right? Which I do not know if young generation have in them, but patience to an extent that you start fighting for one regulation and you may end up really making some difference into it in another 2 to 3 years. And one of the beautiful examples is when we were working towards revamping Companies Act. Companies Act was so redundant and archaic that we were surprised that these are the rules and regulations that exist in a Companies Act. And we were like, why did nobody look into changing it? And this is how it happened. Government made a committee. They called the government affairs heads into that committee, and some specialists from the industry who knew how it works and how we completely revamped the act. No doubt that it took years, and that's why I said that years of that patience, that every time you're going into a committee meeting, deliberating that 100 times. But at the end of the day, we could beautifully revamp such an old, irrelevant act to something which is talking with the current requirements. So I think number two is that you have to be very, very patient and resilient. I think number three, you have to fall in love with all kind of people, because the diverse spectrum of folks that you meet, and many a times you would find few very intelligent who will help you, who will enhance you, and some you will really feel that where are you stuck. So I think your ability to kind of maneuver around, manage all kind of people, simple, complex, sweet, harsh, rude, is another quality which one needs to have, or a skill set. I won't call it a quality, but a skill set that one needs to have. I think fourth is your social skills, your social capability. If you are shy, if you cannot build links, sustainable links, it's not about just building a link and then forgetting about it once the work is done. The linkages are to be sustainable long term. And if the agenda is not vested, the agenda is doing something bigger, the agenda somewhere pans out doing something good for the country and then to the organization. I remember one of my um, seniors, a very, very senior professional in an organization, told me, Anubhuti, if you do good to the country, you will automatically end up doing good to the company. So, focus on that. What is that which is good for the nation that you're working for? And then, company will automatically be benefited. And I think one of the great examples of where and how we have made governments learn what they are lacking, the capability of enhancing yourself, not just doing what organizations are expecting you to do, the capability of enhancing your individual self and not going out of the box alone, but seeing if that box also has something worthwhile to grab. Right? We are all the time talking about going out of the box, out of the box. Often forget that there is some treasure lying in the box as well. Focusing on that too. So managing that complex scenario, of dealing with things. I think these are few aspects that the young generation should look into before considering this profession, and also the opportunities are not too many. It's a very thin org, and one has to be aware of that and not get frustrated if they're not getting right kind of opportunities, and also see if they are public policy, or they're getting educated in public policy, what can be the alternative streams which they can explore. So I think they should be mentally prepared for it, because I don't see that I can blame anybody for it, but it is naturally a very thin org that exists right now.
Right, ma'am. In fact, from what you have mentioned, one of the biggest takeaway for me would be a being extremely patient as
Yeah,
a
yeah,
quality, and second would be, of course, the kind of social links you are forming. I feel amongst youngsters, networking has become such a buzzword that people have started making social relations very transactional.
correct.
Right.
Yes,
So I
yes,
believe having valuable, long term, sustainable relationships
yeah.
is what will help you both personally as well and professionally as well.
And I feel, Sejal, besides that, public policy work is something, the way I said, you should know what you want to change. A lot of reading, a lot of research, that you have to really, really be passionate about. You cannot otherwise be successful. You will be there and you will earn your part of money. You will do your job, but you won't be satisfied and you won't reach that leadership position if you're not very well versed with what you're driving or what you're heading for, right? I think that is the most crucial part of it. Besides, your
Hmm.
social skills are critical, of course, and so is the patience. But I think the main meat is that you need to know what you're heading for. Hmm.
How can a young professional, let's say I'm starting today
Hmm.
and I want to build a career in policy advisory. So, how do you think a clear pathway into the corporate side of public policy and government affairs would look like for me?
Right now, very challenging. But the way I said that, the way the entire global aspect and even the national aspect is moving from a policy landscape perspective, I think there is a huge amount of recognition that we are getting as a policy advisors. We've worked and we have moved so many areas into something progressive, that there is a realization that somebody like a policy professional is important for an organization, building an organization in a better way. I'll touch upon something very critical that India was completely ignorant about a few years ago, which is FDIs, right? FDIs, the way India would sign was like one-sided. We would never even get into the content of what is being written there, and we would sign it off. But I think with the intervention of the government affairs professionals and the way they worked and saw what is happening between the two countries, and the kind of FDIs which are getting signed are insane. They're not making any sense. So now there are people who are required in an organization just to look into how the FDIs are panning out and how can they bring in worth and value in kind of churning it out and building it. So also the country is moved. Right now we are talking like a trade leader when we are signing some of these FDIs. In yesteryears, we didn't care. We were like, "Acha, FDI sign karna hai, kar lete hain." So there are areas which are opening up for public policy professionals. But the way I said, that there is not enough of space that has been created so far for this fraternity. So it is going to be a bit challenging for sure. But if you are good and if you adorn the skills that I just mentioned about, and if you're passionate, you really know why you are there. I don't see any reason why you will not get an opportunity, because I know that even these small organizations today require somebody who understands policy, right? And needless to say that even somebody like PAC is looking at people from the policy advisory space. And even these startups, I know many startups who want somebody who understands government policies, specifically startups. And we know that how rapidly startups are going and unicorns are becoming the reality, right? So I think the landscape is increasing and becoming big. But if I talk about the current times, it is not that huge. So I would also see, and maybe through this podcast, request universities and colleges to gauge that what kind of opportunities are available, and then start these curriculums, and start with something definitive, not just starting another course and then letting kids be in that space getting frustrated if they don't get good work, right? And I think another thing that can be explored in the public policy, which gets little tough in the other areas, is lot of independent work can be done. If you're good in your area and if you select that, okay, fine, this is one area which I can do very well in. For example, AI is really catching up, right? So if you feel that you can do independent advisory, you can do independent research, that is another very good area. And I know that there are a couple of I know a couple of folks, I'm sure there are more around there, that who are doing individual work in policy advisory. So I think that is another area which is open for people in this space, which usually doesn't happen with other professions.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering that. I really would love to know what's your take on the current policy scenario in India.
See, when I talk about India, we all know there has been a huge amount of progression in many areas, and government is focusing on certain things in a very big way. And one of the areas which they're talking about is make in India, right? We are not talking about assemble in India anymore. We are talking about make in India. And let me tell you one thing. When the public procurement conversation started some 20 years back in India, public procurement is just the procurement that is done by the government's procurement of products that is done by the government. There were certain guidelines which were brought about, procuring only indigenized products, especially in IT/ITES services that had at least 15 to 40% of indigenization in them, which is now changed, and certain new rules have come up under class 1, class 2, and other things. But nothing became as successful which we could say as a country we have achieved. But look at the PLI schemes, how they have completely moved the way the space is looking at, right? We are now manufacturing out of India. We are pushing companies which had always looked at India as a selling ground to build in India. And it's not just this that you are getting incentives, right? You are doing a certain amount of manufacturing and you're getting rewarded for that. And it has moved another step ahead. Now you are expected to localize certain components, and then you will get an XYZ of incentive. So this entire landscape is moving in a very fascinating manner. There are certain more things which government is doing in enhancing it, and sectorally, we are talking about how autos can grow, how your medical devices sector can grow, right? But I feel that even though we are doing so much good in various areas, like the way I said, FTI, GST is very successful today. PLIs are doing good. Look at UPIs, 49% of the global transactions are happening through UPI. And many countries are adopting it today, right? And we have, through G20, we have tried bringing the DPI to the world, right? We're trying to tell them how the entire digital framework around the financial sector works. We are leading it somewhere. Having said that, there are many areas which need a huge amount of focus. For example, when you're talking of manufacturing, we need to focus a lot on logistics. How do you build a strong, robust logistics? How are you developing tier 2, tier 3 cities? How you can refrain people from coming towards the urban side of India and creating those kind of facilities right there where they are. Smart cities was something that did not work that well, right? So how do you make smart cities as one of the realities? Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, for example, a very good initiative, but where are we on that? So there are many areas where we still need to work. We have not achieved what we wanted to kind of achieve, but there are then many areas where we are going super aggressive, right? And we have shown that India today is a leader, even when you talk about our stabilized GDP growth, right? But there are sectors, where we really, really need to work. Defense is again a very fascinating sector where we are doing pretty well. We were very, very conservative. We are opening. We are talking about exports. We are bringing in liberalization and import exports regime. Folks who were not thinking of building their products out of India are looking at one of the advisable destinations as India, right? So there are areas where we're doing pretty well, but there are areas I think where we need uh, a lot of exciting work, and I think from everybody. we all need to like work together. And I think one of the things which I will say out for my fraternity, and they have been really struggling to get that done, is that one window clearance. They have been like, okay, people do say there is one window clearance, and I know that Invest India had certain desks which were looking into it. But honestly speaking, when you talk about the practicality of it, it doesn't get translated in the real world. So how do you work on that? How do you bridge some gaps there? I feel some such things are also required, and certain things have happened in a good way.
And that's an enriching perspective, ma'am. In fact, I got to know a lot of things which were sort of missing out from my own understanding of the
Good.
field as well. And I hope it helps the viewers as well
I
in
hope so too.
understanding.
Yes, I hope so too.
So, coming to our last and most, I would say, something that I personally look forward to in every podcast is for women listening to this who aspire to enter the world of public policy and advisory. What would be your advice to them as they begin their journey?
In the public policy space, so I think one of the important things is that they need to keep away the fact that they're women, right? um, First, make yourself so strong, make yourself so valuable that you just become a, people just cannot ignore you. First, that is what is important, right? I was reading this example, and I think I have read it multiple times. But every time I read it, I feel like that's how a woman needs to be. I think in today's world and in any era, the moment you feel that within you, I don't think there is anything that can stop you. It's a story of an eagle and a crow. I don't know if you've heard it, but it's a very 30-second story. So, it's just a crow which dents an eagle constantly, riding on its back. So, a crow rides on the eagle's back and irritates it by picking on him again and again. And eagle has no other way but to fly high. So, eagle starts flying high, and it goes higher and higher and higher and reaches a level where crow is not able to breathe, and it falls. And then the eagle is free and flying really high. So I think, please make yourself worth that, rather than constantly thinking, hey, I'm a woman, what should I do? Should I prepare myself? As a, you don't have to do anything, like, you don't have to wear guards and gears and stuff like that, nothing of that sort. Just be very confident, do your work thoroughly, and get over this complex of being a woman. I feel that if you're that, you really, really can make that difference. And let there be. There have been meetings where I've seen only men around me, and I'm the only woman. I have realized it much later that, oh, this was a room full of men and I was the only woman. I have not realized it the moment I've gotten in. I think somewhere it's the work that you need to do with it yourself. It's not come automatically. There's a lot of effort that it's taken me to do. And the journey started right from my taking sciences after 10th and seeing that, oh, the science section has just 6 women and rest of them are guys. So how do you just ignore that fact and work on growing yourself, right? So I feel that is most critical for a woman. Just let that be aside. There will be challenges, but if you're strong enough, I don't think there's any stopping.
In fact, I was reading this one quote. I'm not sure if it's by Oprah Winfrey or someone, but I did read it that become so excellent at what you do that your talent cannot be dismissed.
Exactly, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that is what is required. Then who will look at the fact that you're a woman or not a woman?
Hmm.
No, nobody is going to look at it. If you are so talented, people will be tempted to involve you. They will be tempted to take certain directions from you. And in fact, I feel as women, we are born leaders. See how beautifully we manage our homes, even while I work. And I have throughout been very active. Still, certain things at home, it's only me who can manage it. So honestly, we are born leaders, but somewhere, we have been deprived of realizing that. I sincerely feel that.
And thank you so much, ma'am, for such wonderful insights. I hope this helps
Thank you
the
so much.
viewers,
Thanks
and
a lot,
thank you
Sadie.
so much for your
Thank you
time.
so much for coming over and having me. Thanks a lot.